will. So, yesterday I was middle of explaining the for loops. So not only for loop, there are like few other things also I want to explain. So I was planning to explain some of these topics. Let's see how long we can cover. So logical controls. So here like there are like different logical controls when we are doing a development. There are like conditional statements, switch statements, and loop statements. So whatever the for loop I'm explaining other day, that is a for loop. It's the loop statements. Before we're going to the loop statements, I want to go in order like conditional, switch, and a loop. So conditional means, so for what we have seen here was like we're executing everything like from top to bottom. If in case we want to only execute the code if specific condition is met, then only I want to execute the piece of code. So that's what actually I was to do the yesterday's task, like based on the whatever the option that we selected, based on that we need to do the operation. So I'm closing all this and sample calculator and select option example. So here, what we are trying to do actually here, that is we're having a drop down where we can select them different operation, either addition, subtraction, multiplication, and we have the this is the one controller and view of page. On the other hand, I'm having the sample calculator where I was having a different methods and different section for each operation. So I asked you to combine the both and having only three variables like two values to enter and one value as a result. And between these two values, you're going to perform either addition, subtraction, multiplication using the drop down. Whatever the drop down you select and you submit, the same operation has to happen. So how we can achieve this? So we have to call when we have one button. So we're going to call one method, obviously. So in one method, based on your selection, you're going to decide which line to be executed. So in the same piece of code, so what I will do was sample calc. I'm going to create a new class, sample calculator, with condition. Just I'm putting name like this. So I'll copy everything from here so that it will save some time over here. I'm resting everything. So I'm not going to use all these numbers. I'm going to use only two numbers. What originally we written, the same thing I was trying to keep. And I have all this, right? Like addition and then subtraction and then multiplication. So what I'm trying to do was I will make the other part where the return type will be whatever I was trying to do the operator returning, and instead of copying it to the value, I will directly return those values. So what I am trying to do here was whatever the task I have given, same thing I'm trying to complete over here. So I'm trying to return the value, whatever the method I have. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to have a actual method that I'm going to call from the Apex is a calculate. I'm saying it as a calculate, and the return type is going to be a void. I'm not going to do anything. And here, based on the operator, I'm going to call this function. So here, how I'm going to do? I'm going to have a condition. First of all, I need to call either of this method, addition, subtraction, or multiplication, based on what I selected. So I need to have one more variable to hold the operator or to select the operator that I'm having. So public string operator get set. So I'm going to have operator. So this operator will have either plus, minus, and across. Based on that, I'm going to call these methods. Okay. Now let's say when it is asking me to calculate, I want to copy the data into a result. So result equal to, so what I can do, if it is addition, I can call this addition method, so that what it will do, it will add these two numbers sorry, and will add to my result. So if I want to do a subtraction, I will do a subtraction. So if I want to do multiplication, I will call this method called a multiplication. So, but at a time, I'm not going to do this three. Based on the operator I'll select, I want to execute these methods. So what are all the different ways that I can execute? So there are two that we're going to explain today. One is conditional, one is a switch. Both are used to execute piece of code based on some conditions are met or not. So let's see, what is the conditional statement and what is the switch statement. So I'm going to implement this logic using the both logics. So first we will see the if. First I will explain what is the if statement. So if is a, like, if we having any condition, like those condition could be if you having some literal value, and if it is going to match any value that you're going to like compare two values. Let's say I'm having the operator here. So if it is holding the value that is equal to plus symbol, then I want to execute one piece of code. That is what I'm going to do. So if the operator is not plus, then this whatever the code that I'm going in that I'm having in between this curly braces, it's not going to execute. Similarly, I can add multiple conditions also here, like there are like conditions with the and symbol, double ampersand, and I can have one more value also. Let's say I have addition. So this is for a and symbol. So we in the formulas we have written the and or function, right? Logical functions. Similarly here, this double ampersand is used to call the and. That means if you have, I have a condition over here, operator double equal to minus. Usually it is going to be a highly impossible case. The operator value cannot be both, right? At any point of time, it could be a plus or a minus, not both. So you can call here as a or, which is a possible. Like if you want any of this condition met, then you want to execute this block of code. then you can give like this. So you have mainly used two operators, AND operator and OR operator, to add the more conditions to your logic. So I have one condition, then I don't want to add anything. If you have multiple conditions, then if it's going to be or like AND, you're going to use two pipes or two ampersand symbols to add the logic between those conditions. Hope so far it is clear. Okay, that's fine. So I have a single condition which is good, but not this condition. I'm going to have another condition. So the simpler way, whatever you know so far, what you can do, you can add one more condition, saying one more if condition, and you can add another if it is a minus, or you can add one more condition saying if it is a cross, so that you can execute this block or this block or this block based on whatever the value in the operator. Based on that, it's going to execute the different blocks. Okay, fine. Now, so anyway, operator value can be any one of this, not you don't need to have so what will happen? So if the value is plus, it will check this condition and it will execute these blocks. And in the next line, again, it will check for this. It will go into this line and check if it is minus or not. Okay, if not, then it will not execute the block and again jump onto the next line and it will execute this line and see, okay, it is not matching. So it will skip these lines. So it's kind of a performance issue, right? You know already that operator can be any of these values. So if it is matching one value, so you no need to execute the remaining. So you can skip them. So how we can skip like that? So there is option called else if. So only if it is not meeting the first criteria, then only it will execute a second. So if it already executed the first one, then it will not go for the second block. So that it will perform the time of execution or lines that need to be executed when you're having a multiple blocks of condition. So if you know that it's definitely not going to uh, happen the next condition, or you don't want to execute the next blocks, if any of this block is being executed, then you can use this if else blocks, so that you can save the performance. Still, there is a possibility of the more execution time. Let's say you don't know like which operator is going to first and which operator is going to last. The user can select any option, right? If they select the cross, what will happen? Again, it will check all this condition and come to this line. So still there is a drawback. There is an option how we can handle it. So there is another option called else block, where if any of this is not matching, and what is your default case? So if any of these operations are not happening, and what code you want to execute by default, or like else block. So in this else block, what will happen? If any of the above conditions are not met, then only this piece of code is going to be executed. So let's try out first and then we'll jump on. So that's what the if conditional statements. So we have here it is a if else statements. So let's complete this task using the if else block and then jump on to the other. So here if it's the plus, I want to do this operation like result equal to addition. If it is a minus, I want to perform the subtraction. If it is a cross, then I want to perform the multiplication. Okay, then done. So my Apex is ready. Now I want to build my VF page with this one. File, new Visual Force page, give your name, and I'm going to follow the syntax of VF page, and I'm going to copy code from here as a sample calculator. So I don't want to copy everything over here, and just going to copy only the first block or first section in it. And I have to add the controller of this Apex class, and I'm adding it. So page block section, and then page block, and then Apex form. I'm just closing the stacks. I have not copied full code. Fine. So here I don't want to give it as an addition or subtraction or multiplication. Okay, fine. So here I want to make it as a 3 column, and then the third column. So a first column I have the number I'm going to take, and in second column I'm going to take number B, and in the third column I want to select the operator. The operator I'm going to have here is what I'm going to add here, the drop down value, what I have already done in the other pages. This one, select list, and I want to choose any of this operator. So I'm going to use the same code over here and pasting it here. So here, what is the where I'm going to store this value? Whatever the drop down I selected, the value part I want to store in the operator side. So whatever the value I'm going to select, that I'm going to have it over here. Done. And the result is going to be only a result. And then I should have a button over here, page block button. So page block here, Apex page block buttons. So I want to have here called Apex command button, and value is submit, and the action I'm going to perform. What is the method name that I have? Calculate is my method name. So I'm going to call this method. Okay, I'm going to preview this page. So I have a number one and the second number, and I want to select what operation. And if I do a submit, I was expecting the result. Okay, first let's take some examples. Two and sorry, yeah, anything is fine. 22 20, 33. So I want to perform addition and click submit. So I see 55, great. And to compare the result, I'm just reducing the number and do a submit. I see 5. If I do a multiplication, then I see 6, which is right. And if I do multiplication again, 15, which is right. If I do subtraction, I see 2, which is right. So we have a simpler code and more, what we can say, reusable code. So if you see the code size also, it got reduced drastically in the Visual Force page side, where over here I have around 56 lines of code. I have only 30 lines of code here in the Apex. Still, like I have like made multiple functions. That's why like it is more. Otherwise, it's going to be a really very less code if you can make it more simpler. Okay, now we have seen like how to use the if and if else statements. So now I want to do the same logic over here. Like see, we have seen the drawback over here, right? The drawback is when I'm selecting a cross mark, still it has to execute all this condition, and if any of this is not condition, then only it will execute. So if it is cross, so you're checking 3 condition, to jump onto this line, but I don't want to do even such wastage. So I want to directly jump onto this line directly, like with the different possibilities. I don't want to execute unnecessary lines. So what is the best way of doing when you're having a multiple conditions and executing a one piece of code to be executed? Switch case is a best option to do that. So how switch is different from a if else? So how it is different is where in the if clause, if and else statement, it will execute from top to bottom, and if first it will check the first statement. If it executed, then it will not execute the remaining. If it is not matching, then it will keep on checking at least when it will be having the matching. So it will be execute from top to bottom and see which is going to be executed. So if it's the last statement, you're going to check all the conditions. So you cannot jump onto the direct statement. So how a switch will help here is switch can we will give an expression in the switch, and we will give a different values, and whenever um, the expression what we have given, whatever the value it matches, directly jump onto that block and it will execute that block. So let's see the syntax of a switch case. Switch on. What is your expression? My expression is an operator. Switch on operator when if it is a plus, then I'm going to, like, whatever the statement you're going to have here. Sorry, you'll be having your statement over here, and then followed by if you're having the next operator with minus, and what you're going to do here, and then if you're having anything over like this, you can add those. What are you having? You can add here. So I'm directly adding a logic over here. So when plus, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this when it is a plus. So when it is a minus symbol, that I'm going to do this one, and if it is a cross symbol, then I'm going to perform the multiplication. So what will happen? Whatever the operator you're having, the value, so you will be going to give the different values. Whenever it's a value, then it will directly jump onto this one. There's some syntax issue. Expecting it. So this is the what, how the block will be. So this is going to be like this. So here also we will be having one block called else block. So when else, you can have like the default block that you want to execute. You can, it will go here like system debug, we can say not valid operator that you're having over here. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, Let's try save over here and execute and see. So I have two methods. So calculate using a switch and calculate using if condition. So I will change in my page. I will change the logic from calculate to calculate using a switch where I have this one. Here I want to change this calculate to calculate using a switch. Okay, I'm just trying to save over here. It's also refresh the page. So if I do the operation, let's see whether it's going to perform anything. So here I don't have I because I have not selected the operator. If you look at the log, you can see that I have the debug called else block when it is not a valid value. It is not a valid operator. That's what I want to see here. But in the end user also they has to know, right? If it is not a valid value. So you have to intimate the end user also that you are not selected the operator. Then how we can do? Let's again see that how we will do that. So with addition, then you can see the result over here, and subtraction, you can see the result. And if it is a multiplication, so 7 minus 8, right? That's why it's giving -1. If you have multiplication, you have multiplication value. So any questions so far here?
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay, great. Now let's look at the loops. The loops part was, so when we having arrays, like how we going to like loop on that arrays. That means I want to perform some action on the loop. They are like again similarly how we have a if else and switch statements. Similarly, for doing a loop operation also, we have two methods we have. One is a for loop and one is a while loop. So how we're going to do was, I think yesterday also I already have some explanation. So there are like two ways for the for loop initialization. One is we will be declaring one variable in the for loop, saying like integer, and then we'll initialize this value with some value. It's not only be 0, you can give any value that you want to give, and then you will be going to give the expression that needs to be true to execute the for loop, and then followed by the it could be an incrementer or decrementer at any kind of operation that you want to do. So you want to do something like I equal only for even values you want to do, then you can give like I equal to I plus 2. So only for the even values only you want to do. So you can do any operation that you wanted to do, so that for each loop it will increment by 2. Okay, this is done, and it will execute. So it first of all it will enter the loop. So you initialize with a 0, so it will execute this, because when you give a 0, this is less than 100 only, so it will execute. So if you're initializing with 1,000 here, so it's not going to be executed the for loop. Why? Because the condition is not getting satisfied. The for loop will be executed the number of times till the expression is not a valid one. So if expression is returning the true, then it will enter into loop. If it is false, then it will not enter into the loop. It could be a first or last, after 100, after 1,000, after any